Namaste and welcome to Itihasdhir with me, Aditi Joshi, and my co-host Aditya Saraf. Itihasdhir is a platform dedicated to preserving the cultural, civilizational, and philosophical legacy of Bharat via books. Today we are joined by Mr. Kanchan Banerjee, who is a thinker, a writer, and a cultural reformer. His work is deeply rooted in the civilizational essence of Bharat. Mr. Banerjee is the author of the widely acclaimed book, The Crash of a Civilization, which examined the historical, ideological, and psychological forces that led to the erosion of India's spiritual and civilizational core. And today we are discussing his latest book, which is the Amritasya Putrah, Children of the Rishis and Immortals. And it is a stirring civilizational call to remember who we are. We are the children of immortality, the inheritors of the Rishi Parampara, and the carriers of the timeless legacy of Dharma. And our generation and our identity should be rooted in Dharma and not in dogma. Welcome to Itihasdhir, Kanchanji.
Namaste. Thank you for having me.
So I want to kickstart the interview by asking you that in invoking the Upanishadic phrase Amritasya Patra, you root the Hindu identity in spiritual immortality rather than in the historical victimhood that we see a lot. So, how does this metaphysical framing challenge both colonial and post colonial narrative of selfhood?
Uh, First of all, again, thank you for having me in this great show that you have been organizing. And it's a great gift to our new generation that you are giving by creating awareness about our Itihas and Shastras. So thank you. The We have recently seen that a number of writers, number of researchers, scholars are working to break the myths of our colonial past. Um, and in doing so, some of them have been a little bit reactionary. That okay, the world is against us. Lot of enemies are within and outside. Those are all perhaps true, but where I find that the civilization Bharatiya survived because of certain strengths. And very few people are discussing that what are the strengths that we have. That's why we live today, even after several centuries of attacks from outside and within. So that's the colonial past. We need to understand that. We need to know about it. But then in the post-colonial era, what is our role as a Bharat as a Sabhyata, Bharat as a Bharatiya, as a Hindu? What is our role? And that was my search for answer to that question. That why we live today, what is the purpose of our civilization, and what is our role going forward. And that's how this is my self quest that gave birth to this book.
So, in your book, you talk about the six pillars of Bharatiya civilization, so to say. Um, these six pillars that you propose are foundational to the Bharatiya civilization, um, and they're not purely historical but existential in nature. So, are these pillars descriptive of what once was, or prescriptive for what ought to be reclaimed? And if it is the latter, what is the mode of civilizational recovery?
Great question. Bharatiya civilization has so many facets, so many ways to look at it, so many uh, contributions it has made. So limiting to six pillars is not a proper justice done, but I found that to understand the basics, at least start with these six foundations, pillars of our civilization. Uh, the First of all, we all know that Bharat gave so much to the world in terms of Ganit, which is mathematics, in terms of astronomy, in terms of uh, yoga, in terms of Ayurveda, in terms of even chemistry, metallurgy, in every single field until the Mughals kind of destroyed all the, before that, all the institutes were destroyed where research was done, original research, manufacturing was done, and export was done throughout the world. Until that time, we were the leader in all these fields. So was it possible? So I go back to the centers of excellence, centers of learning, and in my last, in the crash of civilization, I could identify minimum, like the solid evidence that I have, descriptive evidence I have of 20 plus universities. So that that takes us to this first pillar of knowledge. We have been a knowledge society, freedom of knowledge, freedom of research, searching for truth. So that's why, so out of the six pillars, I put knowledge as the first one. And I don't want to get into all the details, but for example, the yogic Shabdata. And yoga, literally, we take as, asanas and pranayama and all this. But yoga has a much deeper meaning. That means connectivity with the universe. That means I mean, forget for a moment about Atman, Paramatman. We, unless we are at a level, it is very hard to tell that, okay, I have experienced this, so I can tell you more about Atman, Paramatman, Bhagwan, Ishwar. It's all there. It's up to us to discover. But at the basic level, if we are not connected with each other, connected to nature, connected to our trees, our rivers, our mountains, our soil, that's the basic. So yogic Shobhata is about interconnectedness. So similarly, I have gone through other pillars, and to your question, because of that, we have been what we are. And because of these pillars, we can become again what we have been. So that is my proposition, that we ought to rebuild or repair these pillars of our Shabdhata to be the so-called Vishwa Guru, which I think I told Aditi ji probably, that my proposition is that India, some people say India will become Vishwa Guru on, by this time and that time. I say that Bharat is Vishwaguru, was Vishwaguru, and will remain Vishwaguru. You see it or not, the only thing is we, the Bharatiyas, will have to work to make sure the Vishwaguru is out from the forest, out from the hiding, out from the broken hearts somewhere. So our Guru is there. It's a matter of self-discovery. So that's why we need to look at these pillars, and how to strengthen, how to repair these pillars should be our job. Every Bharatiya should have that responsibility.
So talking about recovering our identity and rediscovering it. The loss of our dharmic identity is not just due to conquest and colonization, but it's also a deeper psychological dislocation, which is something even you talk about. So, can you elaborate on the mechanisms which are both institutional and epistemic, through which the civilizational self alienation was achieved to move the younger generations, or our current generation, or like generations, uh, two generations prior to us, away from dharma?
Right. That's a very, very important question. And that's the main challenge we have today, is that I may take couple of minutes to give little bit context. So before 1850 or 1840s, you will not see these terms like Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism, Jainism. These isms were not there. How did it happen? So the colonial missionaries, especially those so-called the experts of religions, they come to Bharat and they just look at our uh, society and our rituals, our festivals, our activities in society, and they compare that with some other animistic cultures they may have encountered somewhere, and they called it Hinduism, and they called it is religion. And the religion and God, these two terms that we frequently use, religion for dharma and God for Ishvara or Bhagavan, it has caused a severe damage to the civilization. I think Bharat's best gift to the world, if I may have to pick up one, is the idea of dharma. It's very simple yet very deep. Dharma is, simply speaking, sustenance. Anything to sustain, anything to be able to perform its own self expression, whether it's a personal expression, realization of my own potentials, or a society to become a prosperous society, a harmonious society. In every situation, dharma has to play a role. That means dharma is not going to the mandir, going doing puja archana. Dharma is all of this. Dharma, anything you do to sustain is dharma. And Buddha Dasa, one Thailand's a great saint, said that, well, first of all, Shankaracharya ji and previous Adi Shankaracharya ji and other rishis, other munis explained what dharma is. It is both prosperity in material sense and also enlightenment in adhatic sense. Together is dharma. So what we have done, we have taken the West's idea of religion, which is a dogma, which is basically you pick one prophet, you pick one book, and you pick one set of practices. There are problems, but okay, if some people would like to do that, that's fine. That's the religion. That's the framework of religion. What is the framework of dharma? There's none. Really speaking, only thing is that which sustains is dharma. That which gives prosperity is dharma. That which brings peace and harmony is dharma. And brings the dharma is also, as I said, it's a very deep subject. I don't want to get too much into it. So the idea of dharma should be inculcated in every single child's mind, that we follow dharma, my duties, based on how to sustain myself, how to sustain my family, how to sustain my society, my desh, kal. So dharma has to replay. And the loss for the human civilization is religion is imposed on dharma. So let us, that is my actually, since I have come to America, since my guru with guru's blessings, that's my single point focus, that let's talk about dharma, not religion. And dharma will protect, dharma rakshati rakshita. Dharma will sustain you if you follow dharma, if you uphold dharma.
But continuing with that thread, you spoke about the imposition of religion upon the framework of dharma. In the age of hypermodernity, where identity is increasingly fragmented, it is increasingly politicized. Uh, how does the concept of Swadharma serve as a unifying and yet also an individualized framework for both spiritual and societal agency?
It's a tough one. So I'll give you an example for any person listening to this who is younger generation and looking for prosperity. Typically after we graduate from high school, we look for the profession that we want to go to, the colleges we want to go to. So we become rich, we become prosperous, happy, family, nice car, big house, and things like that. That's material prosperity. We must have that. So Artha and Kama are the two out of four key purusharths. So our dharma is not negative about material prosperity. Actually, there are many mantras and slokas you may have heard that daridrata, which is poverty, is one of the papas, one of the curses. So one should not be living in poverty. So dharma, Hindu civilization has given very clear mandate that you must be prosperous, you must be happy, kama, and then you do everything based on dharma, principles of sustainability. You follow the principles of sustainability. And then, of course, moksha is another topic. I don't want to get into that right now. But to give another crude example, say I make a lot of money and I buy a Ferrari car, very expensive car, and yet I see the road next to me is broken. Uh, you cannot even drive it there. So what happens if the environment is not correct? Even if you try to be rich, um, you cannot enjoy the richness. So we have a duty to also make sure you have the right environment to enjoy life too. So every single individual that wants to be prosperous, want to be rich, they also have a responsibility. We all have a responsibility, not just me business. So that is anti-dharma. Me business is anti-dharma. So you have to think of big me, that is the entire society, the Virat.
And in fact,
So,
if I were to add one thing to it, uh, Hindu Dharma is, of course, based on the four ashram. And everyone today, when they speak about Hindu Dharma, most of the time, our discussion when we are speaking about spirituality tends to focus on the side of spirituality where you forsake everything and then you tend to go towards the path of Ishvara. But then everywhere that we read about our dharma, it speaks very clearly also about the grihastha ashram, where they tell you that if everyone was to suddenly forsake everything and go to the forest, where would be wealth? Where would be prosperity? Where would be the sustenance of society? Where would be children to for the society to carry on? So that is one thing that immediately came to mind as you were
I
speaking.
100% agree with you that we have lost that tradition of Chaturashram and Chaturvarna also. Um, I'll briefly touch on the Varna a little bit later, but one thing we must, I mean, I have a criticism for many of our sadhus. I have no apology on that because what is a sadhu's dharma, duties, their lifestyle? Many times I have heard they are telling us, the grihasthis, to follow certain things, which is not right thing to do. We when you made a very good point, Aditya ji, our dharma often grihastha is not same as a santa who has taken sannyas, and their lifestyle cannot be imposed on us. Uh, there is a conflict, and many cases, I wouldn't say most of, many of them do not follow even sannyas dharma. And that's where young generation sees, oh, they are just talking, they are not following what they preach. What, so there is a problem within the society also, that those who we look toward, look high, that we need guidance, we may find many of them are not doing their part, especially the politicians. They talk about nation building, many of the politicians, not all, but again, when you look at their lifestyle, the corruption they have is unthinkable. So the young generation try to stay away from politics. Yes, as you said, as a as dharma for a citizen, protecting the society is our dharma too. So where is kshatriyata? So where is the protection from corruption? Where is justice? Justice is also part of dharma. And you have recently seen what many cases are there. What happened in West Bengal, the RG hospital case, the the lady doctor was tortured and killed, and there's no justice till date, and that's adharma. So it is that the justice system, the political system have failed to deliver justice to not just to this woman, but a a classic case of covering up crime. And so dharma has to manifest again in every part of the society. Then only we will have this so-called Vishwa Guru again manifest. The other thing is when you have nearly one third, it's decreasing, one third of population of India are still below poverty. You talk about Vishwa Guru, but that's not fair to those people. So you have to be very practical, pragmatic. That it's not a just like utopia, like communist utopia that uh, we are going to be in 10 years time, or by 2050, 27 will be Viksit Bharat. Yet what that Viksit Bharat means is has to be rooted in dharma. In the name of development, we cannot destroy our forest, we cannot destroy our rivers, we cannot destroy our air, pollute our air, and of course, we cannot destroy our culture, because in the name of development, we see a lot of Western influence coming in the society every day. That doesn't mean West is bad, but there are things in the West that doesn't fit in within India, and we import many of those ideas in the West. So we have to be very careful again for this Viksit Bharat idea, keeping dharma in mind, like again back to sustaining sustainability as the key theme in it.
So Kanchanji, we often hear this a lot, that like all religions are the same, like all gods preach the same thing, the end goal is the same, and like we are not different and all of that, and you critique this flattening belief. So, in your view, what is the core philosophical and ontological difference between dharma and the Abrahamic paradigms, and why is conflating them a form of intellectual violence?
Um, it's not just intellectual violence, it's violence itself, physical violence too. Uh, if you have seen in the past, uh, all the jihads and all the other type of violence in the name of religion that has happened. Actually, Swami Vivekananda was forced to say that religions of the world have done more damage than anything else. So what he meant by that, as we started the discussion, distinction between religion and dharma. So when we so there is another big problem. We are, because we are speaking in English and many of us are trained in English terminologies, so we use God, we use a lot of English terms that doesn't really translate Bharatiya ideas, and that is a classic case with dharma and the divinity. The um, uh, the idea of God, as I said, is very new actually. You go back to um, the Old Testament, you go back to uh, Quran or any other ancient Abrahamic scriptures, the word God is not there. So God was, European word was there, so some folks decided to use it to represent divinity. But to us, the divinity is our expertise. The subject of divinity is expertise of Bharat. just like I gave an example in my book that the the Inuit tribe in Greenland and other places, they use almost 50 words to represent different types of snow and ice.
Mm.
In Sanskrit, you will find over 150 combination of words related to water. So it is no wonder that one word cannot suffice the divinity to explain divinity. So we have so many ways to express divinity. We start with Dev, Devi, then we go all the way to Ishvara. We have Bhagwan. So when you are saying God, which aspect of divinity you are actually denoting to?
Mm.
So God does not do justice to our ideas of divinity. So I say that when you say God is same for every religion, first of all, I 100% disagree that all religions are same. I 100% disagree. Religions cannot be, because if you don't follow Jesus Christ, for example, you're not a Christian. If you don't follow Prophet Muhammad, you're not a Muslim, or for that matter, for the Jewish Moses or any other Jehovah. For us, even Swami Vivekananda latest, said that you are an atheist not because you don't follow a divinity, but if you don't believe in yourself. That goes back to this idea of Amritasya Putrah Atmanam Vriddhi, meaning know yourself. So self, Atman, which is connected to the Paramatman. So that idea cannot be compared with the idea of God. God does not, is a very limited term, God does not represent the idea of divinity that is expressed by our rishis through their, what you call, drishti. Because they go to a higher plane and come back with ideas that cannot be comprehended by just logical means. It's a different world. And again, I want to tell our listeners that let us use the right terminologies. For example, we use spirituality very frequently. Some people say, oh, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. Again, I said, don't use the word spiritual. I am advatvik. Use the Bharatiya shabd jo hai, use that term. I'm adhatik. Why you have to say spiritual? Why you have to say I don't believe in this god or that god? Deva, and so I have a whole chapter discussing this idea of divinity within our civilization. And there is another confusion has been created by so-called Western scholars as in the 1800s, Bharat, our Sanskritic platform was divided into Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism, and so forth. They are not. Today, if you look at so-called Hinduism, if you look at the way Swaminarayan group, they do their sadhana, they follow their guru. If you look at ISKCON, if you look at Ramakrishna Mission, you may say these are all different religions. Similarly, Jain, Sikh, Buddha, all were and are part of the same dharmic foundation. They are no isms. So when a new avatar or new guru came, they they practiced in certain ways for their time, which was appropriate, and they created a new panth. So these are not different religions that hey, Buddhism is so we have done a great injustice to Buddha also. So I have discussed in details in the book how the so-called Jainism and Buddhism and Sikhism is so-called Sikhism is much later, but Jain and Buddha, so much of connectivity we have. And then one other thing that people say that, oh, Buddha did not believe in God. um, which God? How do you define when you say God? But you look at the Buddhist literature, you find The mention of Dev, Devi, and so many other deities so many times, then you say, okay, now I see that it's not God. It's the other way of looking at divinity, not a one single entity that is behind the sky, behind the cloud, with white, white beard, looking at us and judging us and punishing us or rewarding us. No, we do not have such concept. And if it is, if we are following certain things like, oh, you must do this, otherwise Bhagavan Shiva will give you cars. That is not Hindu. Bhagavan doesn't give you cars. Bhagavan means that which gives you blessings and the the fruit of your sadhana. Who is Bhagavan? Who gives the fruit of your sadhana? How can that Bhagavan will give you any bad thing if you don't follow Bhagavan? Because it's a whatever karma you do, whatever sadhana you're doing in life. Sadhana doesn't mean only following rituals for divine beings. Sadhana is also when you go to school, when you're studying, it's a sadhana. So we must understand that sadhana, that this terminology should not remain in the temples. These words have to come out in the society, and we must understand what yoga really means, what sadhana means, what Bhagavan means, what is the difference between Ishwar and Bhagavan and Brahman, Dev, Devi. So instead of saying there are thousands, Hinduism has thousands of gods and goddesses. Come on, we Hindus stop using gods and goddesses. We should be saying Devata, Dev and Devis instead of gods and goddesses. So that's my argument in multiple chapters, that let us go back to the roots of our Shabhyata, and we will become again the enlightened people ourselves, and we will give the light, the same light to others within the country, outside our country.
So you briefly touched upon the use of terminologies, and that was very interesting because it brought up an anecdote in my mind from a Hindi class that I had in school, where my teacher said exactly the same thing. He said that when we are talking about water, water is a singular term in English, but then when you speak in Hindi, and you'll never go to a temple and say मैंने शिवलिंग पर पानी चढ़ाया. You will always use the word jal because instinctively it is more pure. It is
Yes.
something that connects to your heart in terms of your spiritual need. Pani, on the other hand, can be anything that you probably take out of a tap or you drink, but you probably wouldn't offer to a god. So that brings me to my next question as well. Much of Indian discourse today, and especially the political discourse today, it still operates within the colonial era binaries, the terminologies, which is secular versus religious, progressive versus traditional. In fact, traditional has now taken on the color of being regressive in nature, where if you say we want to go back to this, going back almost means that you want to go to the stone era, perhaps. But going back might not always be the worst thing. So, how does Amritasya Putra propose a third vocabulary beyond these binaries rooted in the Indic civilizational mind?
In the in my first book, The Crash of a Civilization, I have actually spent given a lot of pages to analyze certain words are commonly used by us. Um, Many of them came from the Arabic world, the Persian world, and many came from the Western European world. And I contested that. Even I proposed this to some of the political leaders. Let us not use the term shaheed for, or martyr for that matter, for those who have given their life for the country or for dharma. Shaheed very clearly saying shaheed is someone who died in jihad. Very clear definition. Fight for Islam, those who gave life are called shaheed. Martyrs, almost similar. In a religious war, someone died is a martyr. Can we not say Hutatma, Viratma? That is our term. So I have given so many such things, like uh, what we frequently use for an Arabic word for blessings. I'm trying to remember. Um, क्या बोलते हैं when people say there's an Arabic word for blessings. Um, dua, dua.
Hmm.
If you, I have actually gone, I have spent a lot of time on the term dua in my last book. Dua is something that you ask from Allah, not from
Hmm.
Bhagwan or Ishwar or God. You ask from Allah, do some penance within Islamic tradition, and there is a specific way of doing dua. All Muslims even cannot do dua. There are strict ways of performing this act of dua. What we say today, उनके ऊपर दुआ हो जाए, भगवान का दुआ हो जाए. Please, don't use the term. It is not our term. It's Ashirvad. We should be using Ashirvad. So I have given probably 40 plus words like that we use frequently, that should not be used by us, that deviates from the Rishi culture. It's completely insult to our rishis to use certain terms. So one should learn what are the terms that are wrong. Um, Not only wrong, it's kind of injustice, adharma actually, to use certain words. Um, so empowering ourselves with the original meaning of these terms is a duty also for us, all of us. As you said, Jal and Pani and Bari and others, there are 150 plus words relating to water. We don't have to borrow from others. We have them. Same with the idea of Ishvara and divinity.
So, I have a follow up to this. When we speak about, say, कि हमें शहीद नहीं बोलना चाहिए because it is derived from shahadat, and we should instead use the term Viratma or Hutatma. This brings me to something that, a very famous name now, Jesai Deepak said about, I think, New Year, and he said कि काल की हमारी परिभाषा अलग है, हमारा पंचांग अलग है, हमारा नववर्ष अलग है. ये अलगाव नहीं, इसे स्वतंत्र होना कहते हैं, जो हमारे लिए स्वराज्य से भी ऊपर है. He said something on those terms. So many people today would in fact designate what you are saying कि हमें इसकी जगह ये term use करना चाहिए, which we agree to. Many people would say that it is algav. How do you respond to that?
I don't know what algab means. What is
Meaning
the
breaking away from the rest of the usage. I mean, they would say if the whole world is using it, what is the problem with us using it? Why do we necessarily need to break away from the usage?
very, very important? Yes. So, as I said, the biggest loss for our civilization is imposing religion on dharma. So, if you keep on using the term religion, you will never get the idea of dharma. So if we go back to the root of dharma, then we discover the many, many deeper meanings of dharma. Similarly, Bharatiya Shabhata is the oldest surviving Shabhata, and we have developed terminologies for a reason. And these terminologies give strength to the entire civilization, not just us as Hindus or Indians. It gives strength to the entire human civilization. So we should not lose out. We should not, it's a loss for us not to use the original terms so that the the entire human civilization is enriched again, because we have gone a little bit down. We have gone down backwards, and some of these terminologies should empower us. It should empower each individual, and it's not going back to the Stone Age. It is actually being futuristic. because dharma is the only future. Without sustenance, like so much talk is going on, global warming and climate change. What is it? Aren't we talking about sustainability in a different language? Because we have not done the right duties to protect Mother Earth. And so everybody is thinking that how to protect, and it's a global problem. So it is a global dharma for each individual in that global dharma to contribute towards more greener world. So it's our job. So people can immediately connect to that. Sustainability and global warming is a dharmic principle that we need to follow. Similarly, we know today that different asanas benefit us. Just practicing asanas. Whereas the Rishi Munis were practicing, discovered these asanas to empower their sadhana so that they can sit for longer time, they will be nirog without disease. So they discovered this. But that was for them, for their higher sadhana, they discovered it. For us, every individual, it is beneficial. And yoga is part of our dharma that we, it doesn't require you to be a Hindu or Muslim or a Christian. It is universal. So dharma is in that sense universal, that anyone can practice, and they don't have to call themselves Hindu. Still they can get benefit. But we should take pride being a Hindu that we are the direct inheritor of this knowledge system, these technologies that developed for both, uh, you know, material prosperity as well as advatic development. These are our tools they have given us. There are technologies they have given us. Yoga is, in a way, is technology to develop ourselves, to realize our full potential. So who will disagree that, okay, if I want my son to be Einstein, another Einstein, right? What tools can you use for that? One of them is yoga. You allow your child to practice meditation every day, and they may gain a power, and it's not a belief system. That's the problem. You practice, you will gain it. So the religions are basically belief systems that someone said, so if I follow this, it will happen. If I don't follow this, it will not. It will happen. Like I go to hell if I don't follow it. Ours is not a belief system. You experiment and you experience. And that's why I tell every Hindu that if you think that something you are doing as a ritual or something, um, okay, if you think that it is not useful to you, don't use it. But don't blame it, because someone else may be using that same thing and maybe getting benefits. So I tell my communist friends, do a 15-minute meditation every day for 30 days, and then you tell me something is wrong with it. It's not a belief system. It is practical. It is actually you experience, and if you don't find benefit, then say, okay, I don't want to do this. But don't say this is wrong. And the opposite is true. If you don't do this, then you will be eternally cursed to go to the hell. That's not Hindu. so, so we have to be very practical and pragmatic in practice. I give this example, the power of mantra. People say, oh, these are all sounds, that you use. I have actually experimented with certain mantras myself and have seen the power of it. So, but initially you have to have that faith in it that let me try this, let me try this and see what happens. If you don't even have that patience, then you should not be criticizing it, that this is going backwards. Mantras do have so much power. Until you actually practice, you won't realize. So anyone who's a student of geography, all of a sudden you ask a question on physics, they may not be able to answer. And if they try to answer, that is wrong, because they are not knowledgeable about physics. They are knowledgeable about geography. So the world is like that. So everybody has an opinion. And in order to go to learn about the subject matter of Adhyatma, you must go to Bharat. And I don't know if you know this, when Alexander was coming to Bharat, his guru told him that make sure you, every step you take, you don't destroy anything. And that is Bharat. And that has been, and we have forgotten that Bharat. And that Bharat is coming back. I think the time has come that realization about this, for me personally, the writing of this book itself is an experience. It is a proof that awakening is happening and nobody can stop it.
Kanchanji, speaking of awakening and speaking of the importance of mantras, like you mentioned, yoga, we know that Om is a very integral part in yoga, in meditation. However, we do come across a lot of cases, some from Middle East, some from, our Western countries where how do I put it? Our Abrahamic faiths, they have an issue in saying Om because half of them feel like they would rather say Jesus or Allah instead. And somehow they dilute the fact that it's not invoking your God, it's the vibration of Om which makes a difference. But they feel that it's demonic.
I I personally have an experience I should share with you. I also teach yoga here in my town. I have been teaching for many, many years. I learned from my guru at the age of 13, and since then I'm teaching actually. So here, I find some of the gurus will, yoga teachers, I wouldn't say gurus, yoga teachers will find it easier for them to say, oh, well, you don't have to chant a mantra or, it's not necessary. It's an optional thing. But I make sure in my class, everybody chants Om, everybody. So when I do Surya Namaskar, I do all the 10 mantras, and everybody chants in my class. I have no hesitation because if something is universal, if there are a lot of research is done on Om, actual scientific research in the West has been done, the effect of Om on you, the effect of transcendental meditation on. I mean, so much research is there. Anybody can search in the era of AI. Now you can find references to many of these researches. So Om is universal, and if you are hesitant to uh, utter the sound of Om, it's your loss. And it is not about religion, as I said. It is not faith. It is a it is a universal practice. If you chant Om, you will get the benefit from it. Same with when you are meditating. So there, I may feel comfortable a little bit that okay, if you tell someone who is a Christian in faith or a Muslim in faith, if you tell them to meditate on Lord Bhagavan Shiva, maybe they may have that hesitation, and we should not force them to do dhyana on Mahadev. They may choose to meditate on whatever symbolism they have from their tradition. That is fine. In my opinion, that's not wrong. But we, as a teacher, we should not be telling them, don't chant the mantra. Mantras are an integral part of yoga, and we can do without it. You get some benefits. If you do with it, you get more benefits. So it's your choice. And I'll give you an example. In my class, I used to teach a teenage yoga class for the high school kids in my town. So I modified in this way. So I wanted them to meditate on Mata Saraswati. Okay, so I wanted them to many years ago, and I was telling them, okay, imagine this angel. I use the term angel. This angel is sitting on a white lotus. Next to her is a white swan, and she's wearing a white cloth. And in her hand there is a musical instrument. And so there are about 15 or so people in the class, and I call that this name of this angel is Sarda. So this is an introduction to Sardama. And oh, I did not mention about the swan. I remember now the whole moral of the story. One child, teenager, happens to be black. He came out after the meditation, said, I saw a swan next to her. What does it tell? That these cosmic ideas, the cosmic presence, can be discovered by anybody anywhere. You don't have to be a Hindu to discover Ma Saraswati in a form, or for that matter, Durga in a form. Many Westerners are finding it. So those who are resistant, uh, I would suggest try once. Just try and see what happens. If nothing happens, okay, you don't have to do it.
Kanchanji, you used a very specific term rather than using the term guru for the yoga teacher. You used the term teacher, and expanding on that, I want to talk about the Guru Shishya Parampara that existed. And you have highlighted the collapse of the Guru Shishya tradition, and it has been a rupture in the cultural transmission. So, in a world which is governed by algorithms, how do we recover the sanctity of the knowledge transmission without it becoming commodified? Because as of now, any white person who comes to India, spends some time in Rishikesh, becomes a guru, as they say, with that accent. And then they go back and, like, take life however it is. But there's a difference between a guru and a teacher.
Of course, the literal meaning of guru is that someone who takes away your darkness or gives light to you. Um, and again, I go back to the definition of dharma. Dharma is both uh, material prosperity as well as adhyatmic prosperity, development. So our Gurukul that we had, Gurukul system, if you look at even Mahabharata era, in the Gurukul, what they have learned, you will actually see more. They learned about Dhanurvidya, about how to rule the country, how to organize the society. These were the subject matters also in the Gurukul. So these gurus were experts in many different areas of knowledge, not just uh, the knowledge of the divinity. So we must not isolate a guru from just who is giving you the knowledge of divinity, shastras. That's definitely they are gurus, but also how about the material side of it? So the Kanthalur University in Kerala, they had a huge department of Astra Vidya. They used to teach. It was a Gurukul too. Astra Vidya is weaponry. Every center of excellence, every learning center, Gurukul had multiple things. So certain people will go further into Adhyatmic path, more developing themselves for spiritual attainment that we use commonly. Uh, but most of us are going to follow some form of either science or technology or legal law or health science, medicine. So whoever is teaching these subject matters, in that broad sense, they are also gurus, right? They are, so the distinction between a teacher and a guru. So when it comes to yoga, unless you have attained a certain level, I would not call yourself it. If you just learn, say, in the West now, if you did 300 hours of practice of yoga asanas, you get a certificate, and you are a yoga instructor. They call yoga instructor, certified yoga instructor. They don't call you yoga guru. You are actually that. In that sense, you are a teacher. You teach how to practice certain asanas or dhyana or pranayam, You are a teacher. But when it comes to the question of who am I, if you ask that teacher, can you tell who am I? That teacher may not have attained that state yet to answer that question. So when it comes to Adhatmik Guru, I want to find a guru who has attained that level of adhatikata, that can remove the darkness from your mind about the path of adhatma. And that guru are there are not too many of them. There are too no, I haven't found too many of them yet in my lifetime. Whereas on other sciences, which is material sciences, there are teachers, great teachers, great. Even I'll tell you, we sometimes watch this. I'm fond of food, and my son and we whole family, we actually watch many of these shows. Recently, we watched an episode about a great chef, and his idea of becoming a chef, I forget the name now, very famous in the world, is to serve the world. He's using the term, my goal is to serve the best food, serve the most nutritious food to the people. Isn't it dharma? Isn't it like isn't he part of the great tradition of dharma? He's serving the humanity through something, which is food. So we must not isolate the gurus only from adhatic side. Gurus can be in other fields also, and we must respect them. I mean, our physics. If you remember the Pakistani Nobel laureate Professor Salam, who got Nobel Prize in physics, although he's not respected in his own country, that's a different story. But when he went back to Bharat and went to see his school teacher, he touched his feet because his education started with that village teacher. So I can call him a guru who started the lesson of physics in the childhood.
So you talked about how much we learn from our gurus as well. And somehow that has, somewhere that has left a deep imprint in the brains of most Bharatiyas. And even today, we would like to believe that there's a deeper psycho-spiritual inheritance that we had from our rishis and our seers. In your book, can civilizational memory be genetically or energetically transmitted? And if so, what blocks the transmission in the modern Hindu? Because I mean, we don't even need to say anything. If we are in a forest, we don't need to tell a cub of a tiger perhaps to walk into the fire. It automatically knows. So there is certain genetic energy that is passed down.
This is a subject matter of my heart. Actually, as you know, I my background is computer science, artificial intelligence, and machine learning I have been researching in that area as well. Similarly, psychology is another area that I follow a lot, the modern research, and the last one is genetics. So it's a very interesting, intriguing subject to me. And I think during my book launch, someone asked me about Gotra. Um, and I say that Bharat is the only land where we can trace back our origin to a rishi. And that's our Gotra. And when you now scientifically analyze, actually, I'm working on a project right now. I don't want to get into details. So someone very um, knowledgeable about genetics and gene studies in India is saying that through a whole genome sequencing, you may be able to tell the gotra of that person just looking at the gene. Uh, but our genetics, especially Bharat, is the real melting pot in the world. America claims to be a melting pot, but it's only 200 years old. But Bharat has been a melting pot for thousands of years. So when we study the gene pool of people of Bharat, the maximum variation you'll find there. Having said that, there's something called epigenetics. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Basically, environment and your behavior can change the way your gene would express. For example, there is a gene, they call it bad gene, that makes us, prompt us when we see food. Some of us, when we see a lot of food, we go and eat like very hungry, as if we have been fasting for a long time, starving for a long time. There is a gene behind it. So in the past, when we were hunter-gatherers, we developed this this genetic code that you never know when the next day meal is going to come from. So whenever they had this food, they ate. So we have developed this trend, the trait in our gene. So when environment can change your genetic expression. So for example, that food you saw, some people, when they see the food, this same gene is in everybody. Every person has the same gene. But only some people, when they saw the food coming, it becomes active. So that's called epigenome. So basically, the trauma that we went through since the 7th century Common Era, that has left some mark in our genetics. So it has done something to our epigenetics, so that especially you look at today, people who came from East Pakistan back to Bharat, which is Bangladesh now. Many of them, they are actually, when they see the danger of communal danger, they just hide. They actually sometimes support the aggressor. No, 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 they are good people, don't do anything. And I have done a study on that, and many people have done study on that. So what happens is a psychological impact happen, and that has to do with this epigenetics, genomics. People in Darfur and other areas, in some African countries, who went through genocides for 3 generations, genocides for a long time, the impact, the trauma of those violence, it has been carried to the 3rd generation of people. So we have not had enough time to study this. So even they have found the trauma that they went through that carried through the 3 generations. So we have gone through trauma for 40 generations almost. The trauma of violence that the invaders did on us, and that has an impact. So we have to nullify that with positive karma, new activities. That is mostly I recommend yoga and pranayam. Every child should start practicing so that we kind of erase those memories of trauma and be what we are. And because of this trauma, there is some syndromes they call in psychology, the 5 Fs. So fight. So when you see a danger threatening to your life, either you fight if you have power and courage, or you take a flight, you flee. Basically, you leave the place. And there are many Fs like that. So one of them, latest they added, is faun, Faun. You appease to your enemies. Please, I will do anything for you. Don't kill me. So these are the psychological traits have been developed in us. Similarly, Kashmiri Hindus, those who had to flee their home, many of them have these syndromes. You cannot fight. Your ability to fight is gone. You appease the enemy. So civilization has gone through several centuries of trauma. You think about it. When our uh, temples were destroyed. Some of the Brahmins were asked, they paraded naked, and they put meat of cow in their upavit, and they paraded them. Our little girls, women were sold in the markets of the Middle East. You think of the trauma that our civilization gone through, it will take some time. It won't happen automatically. So don't blame ourselves that we are not doing job because we have been inflicted with severe, but also we must appreciate because of whom we are still those great heroes, fighters, including women who carried astra in their hands. So our civilizations, civilizations survived because of the great heroes. We were not defeated actually. This is another colonial narrative being. We have been divided. We are not united. We were defeated again and again and again. We may have lost the final battles, but we defeated the enemies more than we lost. you know, you know about Prithviraj Chauhan, how many times he defeated the enemies. And so many narratives have been built by colonial historians as well as the Islamist and communist historians that it will take some time to get out of that. And it will take some time for us to go back, use the power of mantra, use the power of yoga, dhyana, pranayam to empower ourselves, and that will empower ourselves for anything we try to do, whether it's physics, whether it's chemistry. um, you know Jagdish Chandra Bose, one of the greatest scientists of our time, Satyendranath Bose, the one of the greatest physicists of past century, they all used to do sandhyanik, trisandhya, gayatri mantra. So do you think that it was a superstition? It gave them the power. That's why they did. They were greater scientists. So that's we have to do our job now. It will take few decades. We'll be out of it.
So, Kanchanji, you have the advantage of living in this vantage point, between cultures of both India and the West. So, what pathologies of the Western worldview become more apparent to you, and how does the dharmic worldview offer a very coherent alternative?
The West, so also we have a blanket opinion sometimes we express is West is all bad. Think about it. After the decimation of our institutes in Bharat, both the small gurukuls as well as the centers of excellence like Nalanda, Takshashila, they were all destroyed. The innovation stopped, and it was West who caught up. It was the Industrial Revolution that brought us back to science and technology, without which civilizations cannot survive. But in doing so, West, majority of people in the West, they have a fragmented view of the world. They're good at, West is very good at taking something, break into compartment and pieces and study it. West has developed that faculty very well. That you take something and just take a molecule and bring it all the way down to atoms and subatoms, subatomic energy. They're very good at it in everything, in terms of society, in terms of finding genes and genetics. We did that too. Don't forget, we have done that. Rishi Kanad actually is the first proponent of this atomic theory. But you must appreciate that West has then taken up after the decline of Bharat. and they have given us back the knowledge. All many people say, okay, I was seeing an article, Newton borrowed all the laws of motion from our rishis. Okay, but someone had to rediscover. They may not have given the credit, but West has this special faculty to decipher things to the minutest particle, whereas Bharat always looked at the big picture. So it's a kind of dichotomy in the world. One is one is looking into minute, like smallest area, breaking it down, and it has a problem. When you take a whole and make it into pieces, then you may lose the connectivity. You may lose the big sight of the whole system. For example, I'll give you a very crude example. Nowadays, in America, you'll find in the medical stores on the shelf many of the medicines, uh, herbal medicines, on in a package, just like Ramdevji is doing and others are doing. So West is also doing. Now, West has this affinity to find out, okay, what is that chemical in that, for example, haldi, that affects your physiology. So instead of using turmeric, if you can identify the curcumin, which is the main ingredient of turmeric, you take that and use that rather than turmeric. Now, that's what was done for aspirin. Aspirin was it was initially, in the entire Europe, for as a painkiller. Um, what was used was the bark of the willow tree. So someone said, okay, what is in willow tree that gives this property? So they came up with this synthetic medicine, aspirin, which is the first synthetic Western medicine. So there is a trend of that, but they forget that when you take curcumin out of turmeric, it is no more turmeric, because there are so many other things in turmeric. They interact with in your body. It's not just the curcumin. So I hope I was able to explain that West has this affinity to bring it into small pieces. I want to see isolation. So ours is integration, not isolation. We want the whole, not the part. All the parts should make a whole. That is our philosophy.
So, sir, in your book, you talk about the Vedic ideal, and you talk about it not as a utopia, but as a lived and a replicable ethos. What would it mean to build not just a dharmic individual, but a dharmic society today? And how do we avoid turning that, not necessarily that it might be a bad thing, but how do we avoid turning that aspiration into a theocracy?
Um, have you seen any theocracy in Bharat so far? Thousands of years of Sabrata.
It is my opinion that it is because we've been rooted in the dharma and in the practice that we have, which has made Bharat as it is, which is a big reason that Aditi and I, we've both agreed to this. I mean, even in the Lok Sabha today, the chair that the speaker sits on, or even in the Supreme Court today, when you hear the motto Yato Dharmastato Jaya, it is the dharma that has bound Bharat in its journey of becoming and having always been a Vishwaguru. That is my opinion.
You look at the world today. A very crude example is Pakistan, which was part of Bharat only few years back, less than 100 years ago, and it has become a military state. You may not call it a theocracy, but it's a military state. But most of the nations that are based on a religious belief, which started in the Roman era, they have all strayed. They became dictatorships or some sort of theocracy. One example in Bharat was that during the time of Samrat Ashok, there was a chance that Samrat Ashok may have pushed Bauddha dharma on people. But I disagree with that. I don't think he did that. But people, a lot of people say that he did. But other than that, as long as dharma is in place, dharma is universal, dharma is maximum freedom. So in my book, one of the pillars is a pillar is a mukti shabdhata, freedom, freedom in all aspects, freedom for people to practice, freedom for search for truth, freedom for practicing your own belief. These are all part of this mukti shabdhata. And in the final term, mukti means that you become one with the infinity. And that discovery is found in India, in Bharat. No other nation has that notion. How do you even even just to give an example, I have uh, this. I may have not discussed this in this book, but what is mukti to us, to you and me? You know, how many people have we seen in our lifetime who has gone to that level, like they've got nirvana, mukti? It will be very difficult to find one, but I say that mukti is in every moment of our life. Mukti is at detaching from past. Like we either live in the past or in future most of the time, right? Either you are saying, "Oh my God, what happened to me, my family? What happened to Bharat in the past? Oh my God!" Or you are seeing a future that will be a great future or a bad future for Bharat. But what about present? What am I thinking today? What am I doing today? So that's the human nature. So dharma is saying that live in the present. And with that, you detach from past trauma, you detach from future, utopia, you live now. If that is not mukti, what is mukti? If, for example, someone tells you something bad and immediately you slap on his face, but if you could control that anger. So you are actually free from that anger. You freed yourself from that anger. You free yourself from your greed, free from all the basic, animalistic characteristics in our life. That's freedom. That's mukti. That's a small, tiny, minute mukti every day, every moment we can experience. Then the highest mukti one day will come that nothing bothers me. I'm free. Nothing bothers me anymore. So that's if that is the civilization. If someone is saying, I don't believe what you say, I disagree with you, fine. There's freedom is there in dharma, and then there's no chance for a state or nation to become a theocracy at all. And if it is could have happened, could have happened by now. um you know it hasn't happened in the history of Bharat that they impose the kings impose only their thoughts on the citizens. It hasn't become. And as I gave an example, Bharat, because of Bharat, majority of people are Hindus. Bharat is still is free from all kinds of problems. It's so-called secular, you can say. I don't use the term secular, which is again wrong thing. So yeah, Bharat can never become a theocracy because we don't believe in religion. We don't believe in a belief system. we we follow dharma.
So Kanchanji, the book touches on the feminine principles which are embedded in our dharma. So, how does the dharmic conception of sati subvert both feminist and patriarchal readings of power?
Sati
Shakti.
or Shakti.
Eh,
That's a deep subject. I don't know if I am the right person to really discuss much about it, but uh, to me, uh, Shiva and Shakti uh, together only can bless us, not just one aspect of divinity, because without Shakti, there cannot be any creation. And we have seen that in the symbolism of uh, Ma Kali standing on Shiva. And it has a symbolism that if you ignore Shakti, uh, if you Shakti will also uh, mm, uh, take care of the situation, and Shakti has to be the. I mean, I also don't like to use the terms like feminist energy or patriarchal. These are all again Western colonial terminologies. So the right term you used, Aditi ji, is Shakti, not feminist power. Shakti should be used as a Shakti, not other words for Shakti. And deeper meaning of Shakti is that makes you Shakta, meaning
Hmm.
Samartha, and that is Shakti, that which makes you Samartha and powerful and able. That is Shakti. So we cannot. The moment you use feminist power, it has a whole different meaning in it. But Shakti and then Shiva is ever present, and I mean you can think of other deities as well. Uh, Lakshmi Narayan. Without uh, without Narayan, there is no. Narayan is the principle of sustainability. By the way, Narayan is the substratum of creation, which who protects. You can visualize as Narayan uh, as a deity. And if you have the power of Gyan Yoga, you don't even have to imagine a duty. If you can experience that substratum, that foundation, that principles that are sustaining, if you can experience that, that is also great. That will be the next level. But in the meantime, we do pranam to Bhagavan Krishna as a representative of the Narayan. And as you see the symbolism, Lakshmi gives the samarth to do the sustenance. Without Mahalakshmi, without the material prosperity, without the blessings of Mata Lakshmi, even Narayan cannot do much. So that those symbolisms, sometimes we think that these are all imagination and all this, but these symbolisms were created by rishis for very, very deep reasons. And uh, I always say that don't use these terms like हनुमान जी के लिए monkey god. Come on, please. He's not a monk. He's not a, first of all, monkey. He's not even a god. He's Pavan Putra Hanuman. He's the son of the power of Pavan. Pavan Dev. Pavan is air and circulation and that power. And he represents that power. And that's Hanumanji, not monkey god, not elephant god Ganesh. That has so we must stop using these terms. Otherwise we are actually losing it. It doesn't matter if you disrespect a deity or any tradition. It doesn't matter to the deity. I mean, it has no, but you are losing it by not using the full meaning of it, full power of it. You are losing it. People ask, okay, if you do sun salutations and Surya Namaskar and Jaldan to Surya, what happens? I say, I empower myself. Nothing happens to Surya Dev. If I don't pray one day to Surya Dev, Surya Dev doesn't curse you or nothing happens. But you are making you more powerful every day by doing Surya Namaskar and the mantras we have. And if you know the meaning of each mantra, what are the Dwadas Atman, 12 different avatars of Surya Dev. If you understand that, then only you have more power in yourself.
So,
I
sir,
hope I answered this.
yes, sir, yes. As we move towards the final segment, I do want to ask you, Amritasya Putra does not appear just as a book, but as a civilizational intervention of sorts. So, what has been the most common point of resistance or misinterpretation that you've encountered? And what does that reveal about our current state of consciousness, of Hindu consciousness?
Um, so one thing that we encountered during the colonial era, that we are all sinners. We are born sinners, and we have committed sins. That Swami Vivekananda, in the when he was in America, he actually challenged that notion, and he's the one modernized this term, Amritasya Putrah, from the Shvetashvatara Upanishad. Uh, so uh, he many times he quoted this Amritasya Putra idea, that the moment you think that you are not a sinner, your potential is unlimited, and you can do anything you want. Once you this idea comes into your head, and then if you think of Ashirvad of all the rishis, all the uh, great heroes of the past that are on us, because of that, you have the power in you. And when you think that you are a sinner, and you have to go to the church and confess all your papas in front of the priest, and then the sin will go away, it's childish, in my opinion. If you are doing something wrong, you will pay price for that someday. If not in this life, in the next life. So Amrita Shiputra is Amrita, meaning that which doesn't die, and that is the potential we have, that each one of us will have that uh, ashirvad and power within us. And if you always think, oh, I am weak, I cannot do anything, I am just failure, every day you'll suffer. But the moment you say, I am not weak, I am strong, I am powerful, you basically you are empowering yourself right then at that time, and that empowerment will bring you the things that you desire, which is the karma, and it will manifest before you. If you are sincere about the kamana vasana that you have, it will come to you. And similarly, if you have done something which is uh, not aligned to dharma, which is adharma, I wouldn't say, I don't normally don't use the word papa, because papa as if it is equivalent to sin, but I would say wrong activities, wrong things that are not aligned to dharma. If I do that, I'll pay a price for that. The society will also pay for. So the collective dharma is there also. So if we see a justice in the society, injustice in the society, if we don't act as a collective society, the whole society will suffer for that one day or the other. The what we have seen in governance in Bharat, many decades, we have seen so much of corruption in the government, and nobody could say anything against it. But I think people are awakening more today, and it comes with also another Raj Dharma, if Raj Dharma is actually properly followed, which is done by our current leadership in our Prime Minister Modi ji. So Raj Dharma has been forgotten by people. What is Raj Dharma? When once you are at the top or peak of your power, what are your duties? Most people have forgotten, and they enjoy life. I saw a Facebook post, someone from Bengal uh, who suddenly has become a political leader. He has bought a very expensive car today. How did it happen? Um, and and he happens to be from not from the ruling party in Bengal, from the other side. So how did he make it happen? And he's supposed to be a um, coming from a very good family. So these are the downfalls may happen. So dharma is the only way to protect us from these downfalls. If we always think of dharma, that which sustains, that which protects, that which gives us prosperity, that delivers justice, e- equality to people, um, only then an individual and society can sustain.
Kanchanji, do you, I'm sorry, Kanchanji, do you believe that India is still on a lot of levels mentally colonized? Like there is a disjunction between our outer independence and our inner colonization? Because this is a recurring theme in both, the crash of a civilization and Amritasya Putrah. And if so, what is the precise nature of that colonization today?
I mean, we have discussed in many different ways that colonization part. First of all, the usage of terminologies that colonials introduced to us, like the words religion, and God, and other ideas that they have used. And it is not just the Western colonization, it is also the pan-Arabic colonization that has happened on us. That would lasted for much longer than the Western colonization, roughly 200 years. But the Arabic pan-Arabic colonization that happened, Turkic Arabic colonization, that was much longer. So people sometimes think colonization is only European colonization. We have been colonized by others also, not necessarily by ruling, because as you can, we have been taught that Mughals ruled the entire India for so many years. Actually, if you look at how many years Mughals ruled and what landmass they ruled, so in that sense, physical colonization was not that huge, but the psychological colonization that had happened, because um, I'll give you an example that Azan 5 times in a day is announced from the mic loudspeaker. How many Hindus know what Azan is all about? What is the meaning of Azan? And if they knew what they have done about it, because Azan is saying, "Oh, believers, you come together, time to come together and do offer prayers to Allah. Allah is the only, Allah is the only God. All others are false." And you as Hindus, you're listening every day 5 times that your God, I'm using the God in that sense, not Ishwar sense. Your God is wrong. Your God is false. You're tolerating that every day. So what other colonization is there? I also tell, and at the risk of being anti-Muslim, which I'm not, I tell people that you greet for Eid, Eid Johar, Eid. Have you actually studied what Eid is all about? It's in my Crash of Civilization. I've actually given the actual details and the suras from the religion, that there's nothing for us to greet for Eid. It's actually, it is a sad occasion for us. A go mata is sacrificed, and
Yes.
you greet happy Eid. Come on, blood is flowing in the streets of Calcutta of the blood of Gomata, and you say happy Eid. So when you talk about colonization, this is a psychological colonization happened. It will, it is not happening yet that we are decolonized, but the Western colonization is such that we have, as I said many times by now, that we need to go back to the original idea of dharma. Then only decolonization will happen complete. And we, as I said, the trauma we carry, and colonial trauma, that it doesn't have to be violent trauma, but colonial trauma is there in us. The European trauma is in us, and that has to be gone through education, proper studying of history. We need to bring back Ramesh Chandra Majumdar. We need to bring back Jadunath Sarkar, their histories, because they have been completely obliterated from our history, and even current government hasn't done any better than any past governments. This history education of our history, about our history, is been still same as the Britishers taught us, the Islamists taught us, the first education minister designed, who happened to be a Maulana. Uh, we're still carrying that baggage. So it is a collective effort we have to make. If the government doesn't do, then society has a responsibility to do something. Create more gurukulas, thousands of gurukuls. Who's stopping you from organizing gurukuls and educate our kids about our heritage and our history? So it's a joint responsibility. It's not that government will do everything. It has limitations, but of course, government has a responsibility to look into this. So colonization is a multifold, multi-sphered colonization. Even today, when we listen to Western media, when we watch Western movies, films, aren't we also being affected by, in a very subtle way, of their culture, their ideas? But look, the reverse is happening. The film Avatar, and similar type of ideas are coming into the Western culture now. Many of the uh, movies or animations you will see may reflect Hanumanji somewhere, may reflect Sri Ram somewhere. But it is the Indians, it's the Bharatis who are living across the world. Isn't it their job to bring Ram into life, Sri Ram into life, Sri Krishna into life, to a Hollywood movie on Sri Krishna, and tell the whole world about Sri Krishna? Who is doing that? We are still stuck into thrillers and all this. I wanted to share a story with you. When many years back, around 97, I watched this movie, Braveheart. It is Mel Gibson's. It is based on a Greek soldier who gave life um, for the country. And a movie like that scale can be done on a forgotten soldier. And I was thinking, when is there going to be a movie on Rana Pratap? When there's going to be a movie on Shivaji at that scale? When there's going to be a movie made on Bappa Rawal, who drove the invaders all the way to Iran? When is a movie going to be made? So I am so happy to see Chaba. I was able to see it in the hall, and unbelievable making of Chaba. So we have a responsibility to decolonize, to de-educate ourselves through our own effort. Nobody else will do it. It has to be done by us. Our education system has to be revamped, and we have a responsibility.
So coming to my final question, we are followers of the Sanatan Dharma, that which upholds the society eternally. What does it mean to be a Hindu today, not just ritually, but ontologically? And to remember that we are the children of immortality, we are the Amritasya Putrah.
I'm glad that you mentioned, we have not mentioned the term Sanatan Dharma so far. Probably first time you mentioned the term Sanatan Dharma. Uh, so I always ask this myself: what is the difference between Dharma in general and Hindu Dharma and Sanatan Dharma? Are they all separate, or are they all? We're talking about the same thing. If Dharma is universal, then what is then Hindu Dharma, right? Why it has to have a tag of Hindu in it? Dharma is Dharma. One can argue, right? I'll come back to that. But then Sanatan Dharma, that's another loaded term that generally translated as that is what that Dharma is eternal. Um, it will be there, Shashwat. It will never end. And I was searching for some sort of a definition in the Shastras. I've gone through so many, all the Upanishads, the Puranas. I could not find definition. In Mahabharata, the word Sanatan Dharma is mentioned 157 times. But nowhere it says what Sanatan Dharma is. What makes it a Sanatan Dharma? So finally, in Atharva Veda, I found a shloka. It's in the book, that which is renewed ever. It has to be renewed. Only then it can be eternal. For example, if a river is flowing and the planktons gather, the river slowly will die. The current has to go. So the Atharva Veda gives the example, just like at night, moon comes and it renews itself into a new day with the sun rising. So this within the society, we have to be watchful about practices we do, are they dharmic? Things we do, are they dharmic? So we have to be vigilant about every day, not just uh, that some God will protect our dharma forever. It's a practice. It has to be like society has to be renewed. I just wanted to mention about the the Mahakumbh that just happened. The Kumbh had a very specific tradition. All the great leaders of society, rajas and sadhus, came together, and they every 4 years they will come back and say, just do a analysis of what's happening in the society and study and come up with new ideas every 4 years, and tell the society that in these are the things happening. We ought to change our mode of puja or mode of living and all this. They used to give instructions. This has stopped, right? This has stopped long back when these institutes, gurukuls, ashrams were destroyed, institutes were destroyed. So this renewal is very important. So Sanatan is that which is always renewed. Then it will become eternal. And then about Hindu dharma, the I distinguish this because we are Hindus. The name probably were given by others, but we are identified as Hindus. And the Hindus, the dharmic civilization that we have developed, it is a dharma that is based on dharma, and that is Hindu dharma. The dharma that Hindus follow based on dharma they have developed over centuries is Hindu dharma. So as a Hindu, we must not feel have this inferiority feeling of inferiority. Oh, as if identifying as Hindu is backdated and old. And the moment you know your history, how we have contributed to the world, um, and even doing it today in various ways, it just take example of yoga itself. And now Ayurveda is coming. The whole world is embracing Ayurveda because modern medicine has limitations. It's very
Mm.
expensive. It doesn't have all the cures in the world. So world is so we Hindus have contributed. That's why, if you remember, Swami Vivekananda said that when you utter the word Hindu, I am a Hindu, it should send a galvanic shock in you. Why did he say? We need to have that. Why he said that? We need to know. And then he said in other places that you take country after country after country after civilization, the contribution that is made by these Hindus, these mild Hindus, no other nation has done even percentage of that. So the contribution that our forefathers, our rishis have given to the world so that we live today, even you do think of the number system. Einstein himself admitted that we owe a lot to the Indians who gave us who taught us how to count. So you take from there, even 300 years ago in Europe, they were not using this numbering system. So much contribution, so much sacrifices made by these Hindus. So the very name Hindu should be matter of pride in us. We all should be proud to call ourselves Hindus because of those reasons, and we never should feel ashamed to tell people that we are Hindus. And then comes, someone asked me the question that are people not from India, born in India, are Amritasya Putra? An absolute answer is absolutely yes. All of us are Amritasya Putra. The difference is the people who are fortunate to born in Bharat or as a Hindu, they are the direct inheritor of this uh, civilization. They have a more bigger responsibility than the rest of the world to rediscover this idea of Amritasya Putra. And uh, even when it comes to this whole idea of Varnashram, a lot of people, actually someone asked me about, do we need Varnashram today at all? It's an old backdated system, caste system has corrupted it, so just forget about everything. And I said no, Varnashram has a trajectory for human evolution of our being now is happening. The physical evolution takes billions of years. There's an evolution going on, which is called conscious evolution. That as humans, you can um, go from one state of consciousness to another state of consciousness to another state of consciousness, which Sri Aurobindo actually in modern times, he has explained it, that you can evolve. So what happened? Few people in the West, especially Claire Gibbs and some other scientists, actually they have come up with an idea that okay, you can actually categorize humans at their level of consciousness, and you can identify them. Even the society. So Ken Wilber, one of the philosophers in America, he has come up with color-coded classes. Like, okay, you belong to this color, you belong to this color, you belong to. He actually borrowed from the Varna actually, and Sri Aurobindo. So, what is the purpose? So, Swami Vivekananda gave this beautiful answer that from a lowest, a smallest of insect to the humans, everybody has to finally go back to Brahman. That means it's a very, very powerful thing, he said, that we all have to be evolved into a state where we are no more animals. From animal, we become human. And then Dev, the state of Devatas, Dev, and then beyond that. And that evolution can happen if we are aware, we are conscious of our being, that we have the power to evolve. Animals don't. And that's where lies the responsibility of Hindu, being a Sanatani, that we make the world aware of our potential. We can evolve ourselves, our societies, our civilization to a state what is called Sati Yuga, which many people say it's an utopia. But I believe in there is a possibility that when maximum number of people are living in a um, Ishwar consciousness, that that time is possible. Not an utopia. It is possible that majority of the people, they have evolved from an animalistic instinctive phase to a higher plane, and they are uh, if I have to define Shati, you don't need a police at that time. Because people are self-conscious. You don't need to have mobile phones. You're communicating in different ways, and it is possible. So I don't want to go that far, but today I think as Hindus we have a responsibility first to understand the true meaning of dharma and do our duties based on the dharmic principles of sustainability. And every human being, no matter what quote unquote religion they belong to, what tradition they belong to, what race they belong to, what language they speak, which country they come, all has all people have they have these tools available to them to evolve, to create a better world. And that's what the beauty of the Amrita Bani that the rishis gave in the form of the Vedas, in the form of the Upanishads. And if we can go back to those um, original messages of the rishis, and understand and live by that, then nothing stops.
Thank you so much for all the detailed answers. We couldn't have expected better answers, to be very honest. Every question that we asked, we got a very detailed reply that enhanced our knowledge as readers and as uh, the hosts of this podcast. Uh, Dharyate eti dharma, that which upholds is dharma. We, being the followers, as you said, of Hindu dharma, of Sanatan dharma, it and being the people who carry forward the legacy of our rishis, our munis, who have given us so much knowledge, and beyond that, so much that we've inherited through our genealogy, through our families. Uh, it is absolutely wondrous having read your book and having talked to you. We've talked in detail about dharma. We've talked about what we need to change today as people who begun to realize that there is something wrong with the terminologies that we are using, that there is something wrong with the mindset that we have, perhaps of inferiority of our dharma. Uh, we have taught the world. Swami Vivekananda very beautifully has said that each nation was born for a purpose. The purpose of Bharat, he defined, was one of teaching everyone, uh, amongst many things, being a Vishwaguru. We've always been a Vishwaguru, as Sir said, of Dharma. So, thank you so much for being here today with us, sir. It was an absolute pleasure to talk
Thank
to you.
you.
And
Thank you for having me.
thank you
And
so much to our viewers that you've come here and that you've listened to everything that we've had to say and to patiently listen to all of Sir's answers as well. So, if you have any final words before we conclude.
only word I can say, let the Ashirvad of the rishis be on us and guide us. We pray to them, living and not living, all the gurus in the world, let them guide us in the right direction. We are all Amritasya Putrah. Namaste.
Namaste.
Okay, stop the recording. Thank
Okay.
you so much, sir.